What's going on? Move the Mouse in City Skylines Remastered. And I'm just going to say it because City Skylines 2 is trash. Honestly, City Skylines 2 is so bad that I stopped caring about City Skylines in general as a brand. It completely robbed me of my will to put effort into this, because I feel like at some level, especially higher up in the management tiers, very little effort is kind of the objective to some extent. And I'll get into detail about what I mean by that. Some of you are probably already triggered. Some of you have already clicked off, and that's fine. Cities is not my job. YouTube is a hobby. And thank God, because I've been looking at, Social Blade and basically every single YouTube creator, cities creator on YouTube that I've looked at, every single one of them is at a year low for their average views right now. Like, nobody cares about this game. And I'll tell you something, I'm on YouTube just as much. I'm watching gaming content just as much, but it is not cities content that I'm spending time on YouTube right now. They really messed this release up, and I want to talk a little bit about that. Obviously, I've shared quite a few feelings on my channel in a couple different videos, potato mode and how not to release a game. But the general discourse around this game is starting to shift, and I'm here for it. I love it. There are some people, and I am not one of them. Of course, there's a giant fire when I go to record a cinematic. I just need some background footage, game. It's just, okay, it's just bursting into flames. We'll see how that does. Hopefully there's fire coverage nearby. Where was I? The discourse around Cities 2. It's starting to shift. For years, I was part of a committee bringing you Edge of Map Fog. No, for years, I was part of a Discord with Paradox, with Colossal Order. We were able to go back and forth and share thoughts and find out inside information about, releases that were coming up and answering questions. And it was a really great back and forth. After the release of Cities 2, they shut that down. They don't care about that loop. They don't care about that feedback. Or maybe they realized that even back then at the release of the game, the general conversation in that Discord was less than favorable. Like, there are some diehard supporters of this game. But when people that you're expecting to play it and promote it and make people excited to play your game aren't excited to play your game, you've got a problem. And their answer to that was not to get more feedback. It was to say, hey, we're closing down the Discord. We'll reach out to you when we've got DLC to promote. Okay. See ya. I have a feeling I'm not coming back. I don't, like, if you want to send me the DLC for free, I would love to check it out. But I'm not paying my own money for this stuff, and I don't recommend that you do either. So if I get it for free, great. If it's really good, I'll tell you. If it isn't, I'll probably still tell you. Because I'm an advocate for the consumer, first and foremost. And Cities 2 ain't it. The reason that I'm making this video today is again, because the discourse is shifting, and I think you're going to start to see some content critical of this game from some pretty big creators. They have a vested interest, right? It's if your job is Cities Content 2 all day, every day, you want to be excited about that, even if it's not the best, right? But when it's boring and you're not finding it exciting, and your audience is finding it boring as well, and they're tuning out, and I mean, God, go on YouTube and look at Cities creators and go to their community tab and see how many of them have polls about, hey, should I still do Cities 1 content? Yes, you should. Because more people are playing Cities 1 than they are Cities 2. Look back at SteamDB and Steam charts. Look back at the last year of Cities Skylines, the first one on PC. And you will see a peak of about 23,000 last January, and then hovering somewhere between 16 to 18,000 for the first half of the year. And when you start to see those numbers dwindle a little bit in August and September, I think people just were taking a break, right? Dude, maybe I'm done with Cities, because Cities 2 is right around the corner. Let's get hands on these new tools and new building techniques and take everything we've learned and done in this game and bring it over to that new game. And I think people just inherently take a break there. I know I did, right? I certainly did a lot less in Cities 1 with Cities 2 right around the corner. But I saw this failure coming from miles away. I can't really share too much, but we were allowed to share that we got our hands early on an alpha build of the game. And to be clear, alpha builds they're raw. Way back in the day, I think, like, what was it, Doom 3? I don't know, early 2000s. A buddy of mine got a hand on an alpha leak, and it was amazing, but it wasn't, finished. It was a very small section. Look at the shadows and the lighting, and it looked amazing. But most of the time, alphas are pretty rough. I worked with an unnamed indie dev on an alpha build of one of their sequels, and it's the game, sure, but it's bare bones. It's basic. There's placeholders for on-screen text. There's really rough textures, but the game is there, and that's really what they're testing out that early. Does this work? If so, let's put a fresh coat of paint on it. I played the alpha for Cities summer of 2021. It's around the time I stopped creating content, and I did. It's not Cities' fault. Like, I had depression and anxiety and took a break from mental health for quite a while. But I never, ever, from alpha to today, from alpha to the early access, hey, day zero patch will fix everything, to months later still waiting for fixes on some of that stuff, never during any of that time period did I see a game that was fun to play. And that is the deepest rooted problem of City Skylines 2. The CEO, Miranda Hallikanen, said something to the effect of, technical issues we can fix, but the game, the simulation, that's got to be the good part, because you can't fix that later. And they're happy with what they did there. And that disappoints me to my core so much to hear that come out of their mouth, because they're not going to fix, or at least where things are at now, they're not planning on fixing what to me is the most broken part of the game, the very heart of the game. There's challenge in learning new systems to some extent, but they're easy to cheese. I mean, look at any Cities 2 creator posting content. Look at their bank on, they don't have to play with unlimited money. They can very easily game the system. And this new XP system, okay, great, except you can just put down a bunch of buildings, delete them, get your money back, put down a bunch of buildings, delete them, get your money back. Like, people speedrun this stuff in a couple minutes to unlock everything. Like, they want this simulation to be so real and hardcore on some level. So much so that, we can't change these other things like weather. No, weather's a part of the simulation. It's a part of the experience. You can't turn it off. No one wants it on. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, seeing your town in snow can be cool. Like, that actually is a cool development. But not being able to control that weather. I'm sorry. I'm just watching the camera whip around the background. I'm assuming I'll keep the video lined up just so I don't have to do a lot of editing. Because at this point, right, I'm not going to put a bunch of fancy edit work into my rant. Where was I? I don't even know. I'm so disappointed with this game. And for them to basically say this is good enough. They said, hey, this is good enough, and shoved it out the door. Didn't have modding support. Didn't have their Paradox mod store. Hey, we're going to do all these thousands of free assets, but those creators can't even import the assets at the time they announced the trailer. I don't know if they can now, because I think asset editors and modders are part of a private Discord until they get that out, probably. At least that's what I understood. Again, video creators not part of that anymore. They withdrew from that aspect of community interaction. The community interaction that we are getting at this point is, I should say was, because that is also being withdrawn, is the word of the weeks. And I covered the first couple of those in my how not to release a game video. But that's been just horrible. Like, as someone who has worked in rather large publicly traded companies for quite a while, that kind of communication is just brand damage. It's just been bad. It's never been good. I've never walked away from one of those and said, hey, they're really in touch with where the game is at and my feelings as a player, as part of the community, and I have faith and confidence that they're working on things and working on the right things. No, I've never have I felt that in any of those Word of the Weeks. What I felt was, if you dislike the simulation, go get the fuck out. That's what I took away from those. And again, it's the game. It's the game part of it that I have the biggest problem with. But the simulation is very central to that. And the fact that they think they've got that nailed down, and that's the good part, and they just need to fix their performance and bugs around that. Such a letdown. And a letdown from an unmodded experience especially. Half my audience, at least last time I polled, is on some kind of console. There's a little bit on Switch, mostly PlayStation, Xbox, and then a lot of, decent amount of you are PC players as well. Maybe unmodded or lightly modded, and that's kind of why my channel resonates on some way with you. But regardless of how any of that falls, I have to think about the core game, because there are plenty of people that, even when Paradox Mods ships, aren't going to engage with that system at all. It's just a fact of life. Like, people aren't, the first time something acts funny, they'll be like, oh, forget it, and they'll just back it out, and maybe they'll reset their game. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll just stop playing. Like, it will frustrate a percentage of people, I'm sure. Paradox Mods is supposed to make everything easier. The fact that it's still not in the game is a crime. Like, if you knew it was this far away, you shouldn't have released the game. You take away Steam Workshop support to throw in Paradox Mods, but you forgot to throw in Paradox Mods. So now people are on Thunderstore, people are on third-party sites. My day job's in cyber threat intelligence. Not having a centrally moderated system for this is not a great thing. The fact that the game is shrinking in popularity, though, helps, I guess, because it becomes less of a target for threat actors. But it's just, if you're going and installing third-party code, you don't really know, because it's all new writers, it's all new stores. It's not great. It's not great from a security perspective, I got to admit. But that's the smallest part of the problem, because again, it boils down to the fact that the game is not fun. Some people won't engage with that mod system. And the people, most of all, that won't engage with the mod system are the console players, some of them just chomping at the bit wanting to play this game. I cannot stress enough, do not have excitement for this game on a console. Right? They're doing this game themselves. That was clear on Twitter, right? Tantalus, who helped port the last game over to console, isn't part of this. And based on the last couple updates they did, like, some of you may be really happy about that, because it got bad towards the end. Like, they didn't care. They pushed some broken stuff out too. That quality control is just out the window. Is it good enough? Yeah, ship it. That's that city's brand at this point, in my opinion. Is it good enough? Can we charge people money? Yeah? Okay, ship it. For unmodded players, right? Vanilla players, console players on Xbox and PlayStation, this is not going to be a great experience for you. From somebody who's spent, a couple thousand hours playing the console version and remastered on Xbox and Switch and PC, PlayStation, right? I played on all the platforms, but spent a lot of time with it. I don't think Cities 2 is going to be good for you. I don't think you're going to enjoy it. A small subset of you will. Absolutely. I think that's just, it's a product that you turn on and it works. Some people have low bars. Some people don't have the same concerns that I do. But they're leaving so much to be fixed by the modding community. Hey, you don't need traffic manager. We've got new traffic AI, and it's as stupid as ever. There's no move it. There's no prop line tool. Like, there's things that I think the community just expected. Like, how could you ignore the most popular mods for the last 8 years and not build those into the game? Or tell us that, traffic AI is way better and smarter and it will calculate and no, it's stupid. It's stupid as ever. And this coming from a guy, look at my roads. I got a 4-lane street with intersections everywhere. There's no traffic. It's fine. We're doing okay in this city. Giving people other ways to get around. Sometimes there's some bad traffic, sometimes there's not. But it's the same problem, just in a different way. in Cities 2. Traffic AI is stupid. And I'm sorry if the person that made the traffic AI is hearing this, but like, bring the modders in for that, because they fixed that stuff. I don't know why the people that are fixing this game right now are not on the payroll, and they're, you know, trying to survive off donations for their handiwork, when they're the ones that are going to make this game successful. And again, because of that, I don't think the console version of this game is going to be successful for a very long time. And by successful, I guess I mean it'll probably be monetarily successful. It's on Game Pass, like it's bringing in money already. But like, I don't think it's going to be successful as a game that is fun to play, I should say. It's not. And so many of these things can be fixed by mods and are already being fixed by modders. But mods aren't coming to console. I don't care that they call it Paradox Mods. I've said it before and I'll say it again, because there's somebody out there that doesn't realize this. No, Mouse, they're heading to the comments right now. Mods are coming. Paradox Mods coming to console. Just not code mods. Like, do you understand what that means? That's things that change the game. So you can get buildings, you get new cars, you're gonna have the same broken traffic without tools to control it. You're gonna have the same broken transport systems and stupid simulation where somebody drives to work to get out of their car to walk into the building to immediately walk back to their car to immediately drive back home. Have you followed some of your Sims around? This simulation that's more real than ever is pretty junk. Can we talk about those Sims, by the way? They're scary. They're horrific. And I've suspected for a long time that we were going to be able to like cross-pollinate Sims from Life by You, another Paradox produced title, and City Skylines 2. If there's been confirmation of that, please let me know. I'm just reading in a lot into what I've seen. But I think it's funny that Life by You was originally supposed to go into early access last fall, and then it got pushed to March, and now it's getting delayed again. And one of the things that they're doing is making the humans look even better. And I'm pretty sure like they were using the same busted models so you could, like, you know, again, have a sim and then have them go live in your city. I'm assuming. Maybe I'm reading too much in. Maybe they weren't thinking that far ahead. Like, it would be a really cool interaction. But if they were bringing the same Sims over, like, yeah, you need to work on those. Those things are nightmare fuel. And again, this a lot of my concern has been baked into this game from so long because it was never fun to play for me. I've never experienced a version of City Skylines 2 from alpha to beta to now that I have enjoyed playing. I enjoy looking at it. I think $2.20 makes some really amazing looking cities. You know, the effort that some creators put into this, I mean, they do some amazing things. And then I try and go sit down and if you followed me for a while, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, like I don't make the most beautiful cities. I also do a lot of unmodded console-based stuff, so forgive me, right? But I've never felt that the tools are letting me do what I want to do. You've seen, or you yourself have struggled with zoning in City Skylines 2. It's a mess. And again, the fact that we don't have Move It, we don't have Find It, we don't have these things that are just so baked in the experience on the modded PC version side. The fact that those things aren't in the game means modders can fix it again, but unmodded players and console players don't get that. Did I start my rant and not finish it? Code mods are not coming to console. Assets are. Assets are not mods. That is purposely misleading conversation by calling it Paradox Mods. Like, you are purposely trying to misinform people and get them excited, when at the end of the day, it's not a terrible thing. Like, I'm a fan of a centrally moderated store. Like, as a cybersecurity specialist, I don't want to see people going to random sites to download code. I want it to be vetted and reviewed and have a community of people talking about it, because plenty of people don't know what they're doing, don't know how to analyze and pull apart that code, and will just run it because there's a web page that says it does a thing in a game that didn't bake in that basic functionality to begin with. So this would be really cool. Creates a dangerous landscape on the PC at best, and it completely leaves unmodded and console players out of those fixes. Because why spend time fixing things that the modders have fixed It's corporate greed. It is answering to shareholders. It is spending as little as possible to make as much as possible. And, you know, they're never going to come out and tell you that. But they've got shareholders. Like, look at some very similar things that have happened to trusted franchises. Kerbal Space Program, Halo Infinite, Bethesda Games, and Starfield. Like, are they learning? Are they getting better? Or are they finding ways to squeeze more money out of less effort? And I'm not blaming the devs here. Look, I think, you know, the woman who did the sound design video, like, super passionate about it, obviously. Like, the art directors, even the game designers, like, there are these components that in isolation are really interesting. As a larger project all working together, it's not working. It's not capturing the magic that helped this community thrive for so long. And maybe it's a new era. There's a new meta that we're not hooked into. We're the old guard. I don't know. But, like, look at how any creator, big to small, there's so many of them out there. So many great creators building amazing things in their own way, in their own flavor. And they're all asking their community, hey, would you mind if I go back to Cities 1? Or, hey, would you want to see more Cities 1 content? Or, I'm just done outright. Gonna be having a conversation with somebody pretty soon. And I'm excited to share that, but we had to push back scheduling. And I wanted to get some of this out because the tide is shifting, and I'm here for it. I did a couple takes. I apologize if I'm repeating myself, but I've never seen something about this game that made me excited to play it. And when your job is Cities content, I get it. You got to find that excitement. You got to find the things that you can position and pitch and get excited about and build and share with your audience. But I'm not going to do that. I'm really interested to know if they're even going to reach out to me at all, because I've had nothing but critical things to say. I want this game to be successful. I want them to fix a lot of these problems that are inherent and bake all that into the base game so that console players can take advantage of it. And if they fix those things and make a fun game, I will stand... I was gonna say, I don't know, I'll stand on a hill somewhere. I'll shout it from my channel. That's my best. That's my best way to get the word out. I'll be behind this game if it's fun to play again. But the game is not fun to play. They're leaving it to the modders to fix that part of it and completely alienating the console audience before they've even given us a release date. I hope that most of you playing on console will be playing it via Game Pass, so you don't actually have to buy the game. But that doesn't help PlayStation players, which is a much larger base, especially for single-player games. And then it doesn't help the FOMO that they try and instill either. Sure, you can play it on Game Pass, but if you don't pre-order, you're going to lose out on these buildings. These 8 buildings. And don't forget, like, okay, you lose out on 8 buildings, but they're giving you free region packs and thousands of buildings. You know, why are we giving money in advance for something that we haven't seen? Because we want those 8 buildings really bad. Think about that. Think about what you're plunking money down for. Because the refund system doesn't work the same way on Xbox and PlayStation. I mean, sometimes there's massive flops like a Cyberpunk, and they just take it off the store in the case of PlayStation. Like, that's extreme. That's something that's really broken. I have a feeling if they shipped PC in the state that it was in, if they released the Xbox and PlayStation versions at the same time, I suspect it may have been bad enough that another one of those situations might have happened from Sony, pulling it all together from the store. I bet somewhere in a boardroom they had that conversation. Like, can we afford to be the second product pulled off the PlayStation store for shipping so broken? Probably not. We probably should hit the brakes on this. And seeing what they were willing to push out on the PC makes me really want to know what was happening on the console version. How bad and broken was that? How bad and broken is that still, that they don't even have an idea of a release date? Ask yourself that question. I see people in the comments like, console release when? Like, please give them time. Or go get a PC and find out how boring and broken Cities 2 is at this point. And ask yourself if you're itching to play it on console. I am not. When I started playing Cities 2, I didn't check right away until someone asked me in the comments, like, hey, did you try using a controller? Like, no, actually I didn't. Let me go try that. And controller support out of the box is really good. Like, the second you activate a controller, the buttons on screen change. It tells you, what those map to as you're going through menus. Relatively intuitive, but all the same problems with controller support in general. Like, if you watch a creator build a city, you've probably seen a steady cam hovering over a large neighborhood, and the camera doesn't move as they draw roads. You can't really draw roads on console without moving the camera. That's not how it works. Like, there's no button to anchor that position. And I mentioned that because, like, I could cause horrible performance issues with a controller. When I use a mouse and keyboard, I can move all over the place and I'm not moving the camera. So I can draw a huge grid from high up above. But on controller, the camera is always centered on the cursor, and the cursor is always in the center of the screen. So you're moving the camera around and loading in this neighborhood and loading in that neighborhood when you do it. And especially at launch, when there was much worse performance problems. I could tank my frame rate just by using a controller because it inherently works different. It doesn't give me high hopes for that console version when the basics of controlling the platform are deeper than you've thought about from a game design perspective. And you're building this game as a single solitary code base so that, there's one PDX mods and we can just build one thing and it is the same thing. And they need that because they don't have a separate arm like Tantalus developing a console version. They're building it themselves. They've said that. But they obviously don't have experience in it, and they're not making improvements over what the console version was and what the controller experience was. And people say in the comments quite a bit, like, there's half my audience is not, of course, burn baby burn, Disco Inferno, Industrial Inferno. A good percentage of my audience, half let's say, is PC, and some of them chime in for the first time, like, how do you play this game on a controller? How do you play this game on console? And I'm a proponent of it. Like, I think they did a really good job porting this over. Like, it's not as clean in some ways. Like, Painting District's kind of messy. They messed up the Magnetism remastered. But they did a decent job porting it over. And it's not frustrating once you get used to it, once you understand the controls and how it all works. It's good enough. But the problem is, good enough is the new standard. It's good enough, get it out the door. Good enough for PC, but not thinking about the potential ramifications of what that means long-term for console players and controller players. And I'm guessing, based on what I've seen, that's not going to be a major avenue that they venture down. I think they're still very much in damage control mode. Like, did we get the PC to a good enough version? Yes. So now we're going to stop Word of the Week, and now we're going to stop communicating timelines because that's up to Paradox now, not Colossal Order. We got to stop that. I'm sure that was a comfortable conversation, basically saying, shut up, don't talk about timelines until we're 100%. We'll do that as the publisher. Like, that was pretty clear from the CEO's comments on Reddit on an AMA, or not an AMA, but like a response to a question, response to a patch notes. This thing's a mess, and there is passion in how it was made. There is corporate greed in how it was pushed out the door. I did a roundup rant of 2023. I'd never finished it. I still have my last section, but one of the things I talk about in that is this horrible trend of video game layoffs. EA laid off a ton of people. Not the most, not anywhere close. Embracer killed off a lot of stuff. But EA let go about 400 or so game devs. Now, That's about, I don't know, 40 million in savings on average salary. Average game dev salary in the US is 108,000. So when you look at that, cost savings that you're getting by laying off 400 people, you're saving, 40 million. But what did they do? What did they do that was wrong? Probably nothing. Except get attached to the wrong project. Get attached to something that was mismanaged. So Andrew Wilson, CEO of EA, made over $20 million. $20,066,000. That 66,000 is kind of a funny kick in the pants because that is close to the median income in the US. It was about 73. So that 20 million is the extra bonus, the cherry on top, because he's such a great CEO who's mismanaging these brands to the point where they have to fire 400 people. I don't get that. I don't understand that. It's not something that is unique to EA. It is not something that is unique to gaming. It is something that is intrinsically a part of what capitalism and corporate greed is turning into. It's a spreadsheet. It's cost-benefit analysis. How can we spend as little to make as much? That's all it is. And gameplay is going to get sacrificed. Quality of the art is going to get sacrificed. The art in general. I mean, I'm talking animation, movies, AI invading writing, and NPC dialogue. This is happening across every vertical. It's not a problem that's unique to gaming. It's just a problem that's unfortunate to see creep into a game that we love from a studio that is relatively small, but being pushed behind a publisher that has a lot of financial demands to meet from its shareholders. And what that means is compromising art. Absolutely. 100% positively. It's not about how do we make the best game that we can, and we will make money off of that. That's where the original passion comes from. Let's do something different. Let's do something fun. Let's do something that we haven't seen or put a spin on it in a unique way. Let's watch SimCity implode, and let's suck up that audience by giving them a city builder and listening to the community and working with them for a decade. And then let's throw all that out the window and turn it into a vehicle for making more money. And when it isn't ready on time, ship it anyways. And when you're dragging the schedule and you're not finished fixing it, but we need to get DLC out, well, do that, because we need to keep generating money. And we're not generating money. Like, we've already sold the copies that we're going to sell, and unless they do something dramatically different, I don't think they're going to sell a ton of new copies. Like, there's not going to be this huge uptick in demand for this game when we see less and less players playing it every month. The game is bleeding players. There's more average players on CS1 than there is CS2 on Steam. It's a fact. Look at views for any major content creator focusing on cities. Pull them up on Social Blade and look at their average weekly views. They are at year lows. Look over the last year. They're at some of their lowest views immediately following the release of this game, because there was hype, and then people tried it, and then people saw what it was and saw how repetitive and boring and uninspiring it is. And it is the exact opposite of everything that we love about Cities 1. If you dislike the simulation, this game just might not be for you. Those words ring in my head. And I know over on Egg's Discord, they are a part of the discourse. It's just a meme. We just beat that horse dead and keep going. And I think it resonated with a lot of people in very much the wrong way. And on one small level, they recognize that. Their response to it, unfortunately, is to stop communicating. We don't need word of the week anymore. We're not going to tell you about release dates anymore. And again, that second one, I understand. Like, that's probably a heavy-handed response from Paradox. Like, you need to stop communicating these things because we're letting people down. We'll announce it when we know for sure when it's coming, and it's obviously not coming on a timetable that they understand. Go back to the documentary on, the road to release. They wanted to be done at natural disasters. At one point, they thought that was going to be the last DLC. I'm assuming they probably had a similar thought process at the end of what was called Season 2 DLCs for console, right? They put the DLCs into Seasons 1 and 2. Everything post Sunset Harbor was never part of a season pass. There was never a third season. And that's because, quite simply, right, those are probably placeholder releases. Like, we don't need a Season 3 because we're not doing a Season 3, right? But you keep pushing out stuff for years. Content Career Pack, radio stations. Plazas and Promenades actually was one of the best, in my opinion. Like, especially for an unmodded player, like, really cool things you can do with pedestrian access. And they combined really well with all the previous DLCs. One of the most common things I hear, and I've seen other creators kind of, I think, misunderstand this argument. But a thing I see in a lot of comments on Reddit, all over the place, like, you're comparing this, year one game to a game that had 8 years of support and 8 years of DLC and 8 years of modding. Yeah, I am. Because I gave that company $400. Because they should have learned from all the things that they did in the last game. That's not asking a lot. I'm not asking for feature-to-feature parity across $400 worth of DLC. I'm asking them to understand how the game was played and what lengths people had to go to get around certain systems, to mod things, to break things in the game to make it more fun, and to build that into the new game. I think it's a misguided argument to say that it's not fair to compare the two, because it absolutely is fair to compare the two, because it's not a different game, it's not a different developer, and we're saying like, oh, Cities 1 isn't as good as SimCity was because it's a brand new game. Okay, and they did a lot over 8 years. Like, they didn't know everything out of the gate, but they have all that 8 years of experience to build on, and I don't know what they did with it. They didn't understand the core of the community and how they build and how they detail and how they want to interact with the game. And they said, we know better. This is what we're going to do. We're going to build you an experience system so you can unlock things that way. Meanwhile, people just cheese it and you can unlock everything in like 5 minutes. We're going to give you a weather. Weather's so cool. It's part of the simulation. Can we turn it off? No, it's part of the simulation. Oh, okay. Can we tweak the simulation? No, the simulation is the game. Well, yeah, simulation's fun, but the thing that the majority of players apparently wanted was creative flexibility. Because if there's one consistent trend you see in comments, even from people that are enjoying the game, it's that cities all look the same. I don't build the most beautiful cities, but there are a bunch of creators where if you showed me, a similar overhead style of their city, I wouldn't be able to tell you who's who, or that they were even different creators, or maybe even if we zoomed in close enough that they were even different cities. Like, there's no variation. There's nothing unique. There's nothing you can put your stamp on it and say, this is mine. They shipped it without mods. They shipped it without editor support. They shipped it without, these region packs that would have brought so much life and style into the game. The ultimate irony of that one is they showed us that trailer for assets and all these cool things that are coming. But if you read the timeline a little closer in the word of the week, the people making those assets have not even, at least at that point, had not even seen those assets in the game. Wasn't a possibility. Like, you're promoting this thing that's so cool and literally can't even see a single one of those buildings in the game. That's not something that's imminently releasing. That's something that you just got around to scratching the surface of. That's insulting, like, when you think about it that way and break down the facts. But they don't want you to think about it that way. In fact, they don't want you to think about it at all because they're stopping the word of the week communication. They're done communicating because they couldn't take the feedback, toxic or otherwise. Like, I mean, like, I'm sorry. I don't, again, like, personal threats are not appropriate. But people should be absolutely upset that they spent money on this. They should be absolutely upset that you thought this was good enough and pushed it out the door. They should be absolutely upset that you're already shifting gears and worried about selling DLC. Like, I'm a content creator. I'm a small one. But my God, if you make a grammatical mistake, holy are people going to jump down your throat? I made a casino strip video modded for the city's channel. And I made the mistake of saying Las Vegas, Nevada. Holy crap, did I get a lot of outreach in the comments, DMs, Twitter at the time. I would f***ing love to see some of you try and say Massachusetts town names. Cochituate. How do you think that's spelled? You don't know because you've never seen those characters together. Cochituate. You would murder that if you encountered that in everyday conversation, had to read that out loud. I'm sorry, Nevada. Like, okay. I'd love to see some of you try and pronounce Massachusetts town names. They don't make any sense. But people in the comments know better. You're going to get that know-it-all response. You're going to get the things that aren't fun. And occasionally there are things you have to block and hide or report even if they're bad enough. But you keep going. You keep making content. You don't shut down communication. You don't close the Discord server with all the creators you've been closest partners with, invested in the success of this game, and just say, hey, we'll talk to you when we have DLC to sell. I don't know why you closed that loop. I don't know why you set out to do Word of the Week and turn it into an absolute PR nightmare and then decide to stop it instead of deciding to give it to somebody else. I don't know if Morena is a good CEO. I'm sorry. I'm going to go out on a limb and say no based on what you've done to this property. That may be coming from a timeline that was imposed upon you by Paradox. And that's a 50-50, honestly. But you and your company, your name is on this. You said it was ready. And I don't believe that it is. And plenty of other people agree. And the Steam community in general is not excited to play this game, not as much as to play the old one. Like, there's so much writing on the wall. And I don't think shutting down communication is a good way to do that. Look at Coffee Stain. Look at No Man's Sky and Hello Games. Like, bending over backwards to make things right for the community. And just pour their hearts into fixing that game. Like, there's still things, like, from a design perspective, like, I would absolutely change. I would love to see different. But I got a lot more enjoyment out of exploring No Man's Sky than I did loading screens in Starfield. You know, there's things that we need to learn from games that we put out to make the next game better, or games that other people put out to make the new game from a different studio better. Like, you need to understand how people are playing games, how people are playing your game, and shutting down that communication in multiple layers, I don't think is going the right direction. I think it's going the absolute wrong direction. So I'm going to stop here. There was way too much ranting, and I don't know how to turn this into a video. There will probably be some minimal edits. Maybe I'll just re-record it. Try and come up with a better bulleted list. But CS2 is such a mess, and you're going to hear other creators start to talk more and more about that, and I am here for it. I am sad that it took them so long to come to some of these realizations, but happy that they're getting there, because I think they're starting to see things the way that the community in general sees it, and there are numbers and statistics that we can point to prove it's how they feel. It's dwindling YouTube views. It's dwindling player counts. It's a lot of people falling away from the discourse of this game, and the really polarized people are the ones that are left behind. The ones that want to argue on Reddit. The ones that want to defend this game and die on that hill. Like, I'm so happy if you're enjoying the game. Like, I would never not be happy that someone found a game that they like and can sink hours to and can, I don't know, in a way, like Cities for me is very, the process is like meditative. It puts me in a different spot, turns my brain off in certain ways and turns other parts on, and I absolutely love it. And I don't have and have never had that same feeling playing Cities 2. Cities 2 is a chore. Cities 2 is boring and bland. And if you give it to $2.20, you can make it look really good. As long as you edit your footage really carefully and make sure you cut out the frame drops. Like, people can do really amazing things with it. Absolutely. I am not one of those people, in part because I can't spend the time on it. It's not fun. To quote Billy Crystal, it's not funny. It's not fun. Let's call it a rant. If you stuck around through all this, really appreciate you. I want Cities 2 to be a successful game. I would love to get back to making content around Cities, and especially console version, when that eventually drops, if ever. But I'm going in very cautiously. I would urge you to do the same, console players. Don't pre-order. Don't feel FOMO. If you miss out on 8 buildings because you didn't pre-order, you're going to get 2,500 buildings in the region packs. And there'll be other assets and DLCs and CCPs and all these other things that will enable you to drop all kinds of cool buildings into the game. Don't give them money that you won't be able to refund based on that FOMO. It's a way to bring more money in, but it's also a way to hedge their bets. And they know that, like, they can get some people hooked in. Those are the same people that will get hooked into a lot of the DLC and spend another $400 on the game. Like, they want you to buy it. They want it in your library. They want you to play it now and later and see the DLC and spend more money on it and continue to spend money on it. And I, again, can't recommend that you do spend money on this game at this point. I own a free copy of the game because it was provided to me by Paradox. I would not spend a penny on City Skylines 2. I don't recommend you do either. Rant over. If you stuck around, hopefully you enjoyed. Maybe just some background noise. Maybe you fell asleep. If so, sweet dreams. Sleep peacefully. I'll try and fade out to a quiet song here. Maybe not. Maybe I'll drop an alarm clock in here. No, it'll be a quiet song. Probably. I don't know. Watch your volume levels. But anyways, if you're new and just stumbling upon this video and wanted to listen to a semi-unhinged, maybe semi-hinged. I mean, if it's not totally unhinged, maybe it's still, maybe semi-hinged is a better way to put it. But anyways, this rant, if you're hearing this unhinged outro, then thank you for staying tuned. If you're new, subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you didn't like the video and still somehow stayed tuned this long, then hit that dislike button twice, please. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next one. When is the next one? I don't know. I do want to get back into Cities Remastered, I think, and finish up some things and do some fun little projects. Maybe a live stream and we drive around, walk around, blow some stuff up. That's always fun. In terms of new games, there's a couple things coming out over the next couple months that I am really interested in. Pacific Drive on February 22nd. PlayStation and PC. Check that one out. It's a roguelike where you have like a car and you're building it up and there's some kind of alien electrical storm. It looks really fun. And it kind of looks like the family wagon roadster or whatever from Vacation, National Lampoon's Vacation. I think that's going to be a ton of fun. I'll be playing that. Probably get a live stream at least, if not some extra content behind that. There's some other things coming. Open Roads in March is from the creators of Gone Home, so it should be a fun walking sim. I'm sure a very well-written, impactful, emotional walking sim. If that's not your thing, totally get it, but I will definitely be playing that one. Probably live stream that. And then there's something coming out in April, and I can't remember what that is. Oh, Manor Lords. So yeah, so there's a lot of interesting stuff, and that's just the stuff that we know about now. Some stuff gets shadow dropped around events. Little indies pop up here and there. There's also a tremendous backlog that I have on both Xbox and Steam that I've got to get to. So I'll be doing some of that soon enough. In the meantime, I'm gonna be playing probably a ton of Sea of Thieves with my wife. That's what we've been enjoying. just messing around, being silly on the seas. But you know where to find me, right here. This is my only. I got rid of social media. I actually do have a Blue Sky that I don't use that much, but this is where to stay tuned, to stay in touch. Hit me up in the comments. Hit me up on the community tab. I will see you out there. Until the next one, like, subscribe, and don't pre-order CS2. Until then, or I guess not until then that you don't order CS2. Until then, the next one. Until then, Move the Mouse. Signing off.